Hey, Soft Tummy Crew. Thanks for listening to this episode. Just want to give you a little trigger warning. I am discussing a topic today that has a lot to do with specific dieting behaviors, potential eating disorder behaviors, certain numbers, details. So if that sounds like something that's not really your jam, feel free to skip this episode this week. If you do proceed with caution. Just know that there's some stuff that might be a little triggering. And then, if not, tune in next week for an interview with my friend Cameron Tyler. Okay, bye. If this doesn't work this time, I'm literally ending this whole podcast. Wowie, wow. Welcome back to another episode of My Body, My Jokes. I'm going to be so fucking for real with you guys right now. This is the fourth time that I'm trying to record this episode in my home studio alone. So I am solely the camera operator, the audio guy, the info guy, the host, the talent, the pretty face. Okay, so this has been a whole thing. Like my Zoom recorder wasn't recording, and then I did a whole episode yesterday and I didn't even press record, and then I did another one where I kept fucking up and like stuttering. So if this isn't the last one, then you're not getting an episode this week and you'll never hear this anyway. But that's where we're at. So I'm in the home studio. It looks beautiful. I'm so fucking excited about it. Every week I'm like adding new shit to it. I do have to give a shout out to my OnlyFans followers who have graciously presented me with this beautiful podcast equipment. Thank you. I appreciate you so much for giving me the ability to continue chasing my dreams and talking about these very important topics and doing it from the comfort of my own little sunroom. I love this room. If you haven't seen the video, check it out. There's cute little shelves. I got plants everywhere. I put up my little letterboard sign that says My Body, My Jokes. And it's very cozy. And I have a lot of very exciting guests coming up. And so this will probably be the last solo episode for a while. I know they can get a little boring, but I have a author coming in. I have a women's only gym owner coming in. I have a burlesque dancer coming in. I have people from the Eating Disorder Foundation coming in. I have anti-diet dietitians. I have weight inclusive speakers and consultants, and literally the coolest guest list that you could ever ask for. So it's going to be a great summer. It's going to be a gay ass summer. We're doing it. People are coming in. If you're in Denver, I am hosting a sapphic comedy show at the Pearl on May 9th. It's going to be sick. It's all queer comics, all ally and queer comics. And it's one of the first shows of its kind, I think, at the Pearl and in Denver. There haven't been a ton of like queer and sapphic specific comedy shows. So I'm excited to explore my queerness and be there and be a part of the community. I'm excited to bring some laughter to the Pearl, which is who took over Mercury Cafe, if you didn't know. And it's going to be a sick time. So link in my bio, in all of the places on my website, on the My Body, My Jokes show notes. May 9th, get your tickets. But enough with the announcements, enough with the boring stuff, because today we have a very interesting topic. And if you haven't heard of it, you're a very lucky person. But if you have heard of it, you know exactly what I'm fucking talking about. Today, we're going to talk about SkinnyTok. Oop! Yeah, we're talking about SkinnyTok. Something that has taken the world by storm, taken TikTok by storm, taken, honestly, even Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit by storm, which is interesting. If you don't know what SkinnyTok is a phrase used to reference thousands of videos online that have to do with losing weight. Okay, that's like the short of it. SkinnyTok derives from an interchangeable phrase that we all use to kind of categorize what type of or what side of TikTok we're on. So let's say you love dogs. That probably means you're on Dog Talk because your For You page feeds you a lot of dog videos. Let's say you like stand-up comedy. That probably means you're on Comedy Talk because TikTok is constantly feeding you videos of comedy. So SkinnyTok is really just any video that has to do with weight loss, any video that has to do with like tough love type of weight loss dieting advice. It's a very weird rebrand of basically pro-Anna Tumblr from the 2010s. And if you don't know what pro-Anna means, it literally means pro-anorexia, which is a wild fucking phrase to ever stand behind. But SkinnyTok is the perfect place to go if you want to feel like you're getting yelled at by a bunch of 20-something able-bodied, thin, white, cisgendered women. That's like all it is. Like if you want to feel like the worst version of yourself and have some girl who's hasn't even lived her life yet tell you to eat 1,100 calories a day and be sad, that's probably where you're going to find it, is SkinnyTok. It's just it's the modern reincarnation of every fad diet and every beauty trend you've ever seen every 10 years, right? Because there's always something new every 10 years. There's like, the white wine diet. There's the flapper girl diet from the 20s. There's fucking, every diet book that came out in the 90s, everything your parents have ever done, Weight Watchers, Atkins, the keto, like Ozempic. There's always something new. There's always some new trick to losing weight and fitting into the bullshit beauty standards. So basically, SkinnyTok is the place to go if you want to feel gaslit by a bunch of thin young white women telling you that you are fat and ugly. That's the whole thing. So when you look up SkinnyTok on TikTok, when you actually go on TikTok and you type in SkinnyTok, this is what comes up, okay? There's a small disclaimer message at the top of the search page in front of a bunch of videos, right? And at the top of the disclaimer, all you can really see are the words, "You are more than your weight." Which, okay, love that. You click on it, and then once you click on it, it'll open up into a larger message with a graphic of a stomach holding a heart. And I'm not talking about like a stomach that has a belly button. I'm talking about like the outline of the organ, the stomach, hugging a heart with a smiley face on it. And it says, "You are more than your weight. If you or someone you know has questions about body image, food, or exercise, it is important to know that help is out there and you are not alone. If you feel comfortable, you can confide in someone you trust or check out the resources below. Please remember to take care of yourselves and each other." So clearly TikTok has consulted a lawyer about this. The two links that are below this little blurb of text is the Safety Center resources from TikTok themselves, which when you click on them, luckily it does go to like a page that kind of breaks down like, what is an eating disorder? What are some warning signs? How can you tell when someone has an eating disorder? How to talk to someone you think might have an eating disorder? Links to like professional help, online help. And then there's also a link to like find local consultants or get local help, and it's a link to the NEDA website, the National Eating Disorders Association website, which I do find interesting considering they have come under much controversy over the last year or so. If you didn't listen to earlier episodes of the pod where we discussed NEDA right before I did the Roast of Diet Culture show, they've come under fire. They're the largest, I think, nonprofit organization that deals with eating disorder recovery directly. However, they have a lot of particular people in their pockets who support particular policies and, things being made. So like, I think it was the American Pediatric Association came out with a report last year or the year before saying that kids who are considered obese should be considered candidates for gastric sleeve, like gastric bypass, like weight loss surgery. And NEDA was like, "Yep, we back that 100%, which is wild to do as an eating disorder association. They also, their most recent controversy was they actually let go all of their crisis and helpline staff so that they could instead employ an AI chatbot to their site. So they were encouraging people who needed help to, instead of calling the helpline, to actually just chat with an AI chatbot named Tessa. And people started figuring out that if they asked Tessa the right questions, that they could get her to say some very toxic diet advice, which is not surprising at all considering it's a fucking AI chatbot. So they've come under a lot of controversy for not making the best decisions, not making the most meaningful decisions. So I find it interesting that TikTok is like referencing them. But overall, there are some like genuine resources and good advice on this disclaimer. clearly, again, TikTok has like consulted a lawyer and they're just covering their ass by having this, because you have to click into the message to see all that. And if you don't, which most people aren't going to, you're just going to scroll and you're going to find, I'm not kidding, 47.1 thousand videos about being skinny. 47.1 thousand videos and growing every single day. That means that there are 47.1 thousand videos that TikTok has somehow categorized as SkinnyTok, whether it's a hashtag in the video that says hashtag SkinnyTok, maybe a comment that says it, maybe the person in the actual video says it. But either way, it's being categorized into this quote unquote skinny talk category. Okay. So if I were to describe SkinnyTok, I would just say that it is literally a bunch of young, able-bodied, thin, cisgendered white women telling you to feel shame about food. That's all it is. Like, SkinnyTok is the perfect place to go if you want to feel gaslit by a bunch of young white women who haven't even lived their lives yet. You know what I mean? It's a lot of like 20-something-year-olds. It's a lot of very young women talking about how, you know, drinking 6 cups of green tea during the day has helped flatten their tummy, and how eating only 1,100 calories has helped them gain so much confidence. I should have put a trigger warning at the beginning of this episode. I probably will now, because there's going to be a lot of talk about like specific behaviors, and if that's not your jam, totally get it. Don't listen. But that's all the videos are, right? It's all tough love. It's all about shame. That's kind of the basis of all of the videos. It's not based on science. It's based on like bias, right? So it's all anti-fat bias. And one video even had a user saying, if you want to be skinny, you need to do skinny girl things. That means no snacking, no drinking your calories, and working out as much as possible. And to be honest, like, that doesn't sound like skinny girl things. That sounds like eating disorder girl things. I don't know if you don't recognize that, but like, that's where we're headed. So when you look up SkinnyTok, this is what you're getting. You're getting a ton of videos of basically the same thing over and over again. And the main theme is somehow tough loving yourself into weight loss. There are a lot of hashtags associated with SkinnyTok. There's the obvious ones, you know, weight loss motivation, fitness motivation, weight loss journey, ones that we've seen online since the beginning of the internet, right? Like, anyone who's on a weight loss journey is probably going to post about it, and they're going to put those hashtags. But then there are ones that are really specific to SkinnyTok, like hashtag skinny girl summer, and hashtag skinny, hashtag thin, and one that I find particularly scary, hashtag healthy. Because there's nothing healthy about what's going on in any of these videos, and certainly not the mentality that you're spreading. Jesus Christ. I scrolled through a bunch of these videos. I did get triggered many a time, and the first thing that I thought about was, wow, I am 29 years old, and I'm a year and a half into eating disorder recovery, and I'm feeling triggered by these videos. I have no idea what it must be like for a young 13-year-old girl to be scrolling through these videos, seeing a bunch of women who are older than her, who are the ideal Western beauty standard, telling them to harm themselves for the sake of being thin. I cannot fucking imagine how easy it would be to fall into that trap, right? The comments on SkinnyTok videos are terrifying, okay? And they're all like in seriousness. Most of them are just like commenting to stay on SkinnyTok so that they can tell the algorithm to keep feeding them these dumbass videos. But then there's comments like, I'm just here to disappear by summer. Okay. Another one says, you hungry? Eat water. Another one said, chewing gum and drinking water when you're hungry helped me a lot. It literally fools the mind and stomach. I'm sorry, that's where we're at now. We're fooling our bodies because we don't trust our bodies that keep us alive. You should be fucking grateful, Brittany. And then another one said, kids' meals are the real hack. Yeah, because why would you feed yourself sufficient calories as an adult woman when you can just buy a kid's meal and feel like shit the rest of the day? Cool. I can't stand SkinnyTok videos. It's so obvious that it's toxic and that it's like eating disorder behaviors. But then when you like see these women who defend it to their dying breath, I'm like, yeah, I get it. because I used to do that. Like when I was in 8th grade, and I remember I got so thin that at one point someone I think called me out for like either having an eating disorder or like being too skinny. I remember defending myself to the death. Like I would have punched this person flat out in the face in front of everyone. I didn't care. Like I went to great lengths to try to prove that I did not have an eating disorder by doing anything I could, which at the end of the day just proved that I did have an eating disorder. So the defensiveness is like, I think the biggest red flag. It's like, why are you getting so defensive? If it's so healthy for you, why are you getting so mad? Some of the most unhinged quotes I have found on SkinnyTok are coming to you right now, okay? Here is a collection of some of the most unhinged quotes I have found on SkinnyTok, okay? It's not genetics, it's eating habits. I'm sorry, what? Cravings don't last, but those love handles do. Okay, what are you, my mom? Like, it's giving once on the lips, forever on the hips. Like, grow the fuck up. What you eat in private shows in public. That to me is just like such an ugly thing to say. Like, what you eat in private shows in public. What? Like, okay, sorry, I'm gonna eat like a salad at home and then all of a sudden I'm gonna like be beautiful tomorrow because I ate a salad? Go fuck yourself. Do you want to eat a snack or do you want to be a snack? God, these quotes are just giving like millennial chuggy vibes. I can't. One workout won't change your body, but it will change your mindset. I feel like that's a quote that's like written in like papyrus font inside of like an Orange Theory Fitness. You had the choice of abs or excuses. You chose excuses. God, this is sounding more and more like a man's podcast every day. Discipline is way harder than motivation. I think that's accurate. I think that's true. Discipline is fucking hard. It's way harder than motivation, but I don't like putting it in the context of like, the discipline has to be restriction. That's weird to me. Eat small, be small. Eat big, be big. Big brain activities. Really putting a lot of thought in there. Why say lot word when few do trick? That's what it's giving. You're fat because you chose comfort over commitment. Yeah, it's not because of your socioeconomic status. It's not because of your genetics. It's not because of what your ancestors went through. And it's definitely not because of your race or your ethnicity. It's because you chose comfort over commitment. Gross. There's no such thing as a relationship with food. Food is an inanimate object. It's always been about the relationship with yourself. That's just flat out a fucking lie. And then the last one, which I hate more than anything, is hunger is not an emergency. Yeah, it's not an emergency, but it's a sign from your body that you need fuel. So I feel like maybe some of us need to go back to school. It's honestly like so disheartening to like read those quotes and know that there are people genuinely writing them down and listening to them and like probably putting them on sticky notes on their mirror, because I've been here. Like I have been so deep in this type of thinking before, and it's so miserable and it's so difficult to get out of, especially when you're in the cycle of like, you know, maybe you're restricting, you're losing weight, you're doing whatever it is and you're getting smaller, and then people are complimenting you on it. That's the worst part, is the consistent positive reinforcement from your peers that don't understand that what you're doing is actually hurting yourself. That is the most difficult part to let go of, in my opinion. Like, I loved losing weight growing up, and I loved going through the process of losing weight because it made me feel so fucking valid. It made me feel like, oh wow, people are looking at me and they see that I'm not this like lazy piece of shit. They see that I can put in work and that I can change who I am and I can get hot and I can get cool and yada yada yada. When in reality, like, I was engaging in behaviors like these, like starving myself and not eating enough and over exercising and like ruining my body. And we're going to get into that a little bit. So that is some of the crazy shit that I've seen on SkinnyTok. I did do a deep dive yesterday when I was preparing for this episode, and I will say, like, It's not for the faint of heart. If you're someone that feels triggered by that stuff, protect your heart, protect yourself right now. Like, you don't need to look at it. It's literally the same exact type of woman in every video telling you not to eat. It's like, I mean, I hate to repeat it, but it's like a young, able-bodied, thin, cisgendered white woman just like being like, yeah, you don't need food. You don't need a snack. What you need is water and sleep. Like, it's just really stupid advice. So if you're like me, by this point, you're probably like, okay, well, if it's so bad, why isn't it getting taken down? Like, why isn't TikTok doing anything about it, right? Why do they only have a disclaimer message and like nothing else? And this is the reality of the situation, right? TikTok can only control so much content on their platform. They're kind of like first round of defense when it comes to people who violate community guidelines is like an AI system that tracks what people are doing, what they say, and it takes down like the most obvious shit first, right? So if it's like an obvious threat, physical violence, sexual exploitation, whatever, that's going to be the shit that TikTok focuses on. It's not going to necessarily focus on like white women giving diet advice, because since the beginning of time, white women have been giving diet advice. And that's all SkinnyTok really is, right? SkinnyTok is just the modern manifestation of diet culture, and it has just disguised itself as this really fun, cutesy, like girly trend online that convinces you that you're doing something good for yourself because you're actually building your confidence. And I think that's why it has done so well, is because it focuses less on like the health part of it and more about the aesthetic. And it's literally a bunch of women who are just like, I just want to be skinny. That's the whole point of this. Like, it has nothing to do with their health or improving themselves. It's literally just, oh, I just want to be thin, right? And it's the same advice we've heard from diet culture over and over again. And it's, you know, calories in versus calories out. It's walking 10K steps. It's drinking water. It's saying no to liquid calories. It's cutting out unnecessary carbs and sugar, which is an oxymoron. But nothing is different, right? It's the same diet culture that we've seen over and over again. And according to TikTok's community guidelines, it does not allow showing or promoting disordered eating and dangerous weight loss behaviors. However, content that shows or promotes potentially harmful weight management is allowed but restricted to people 18 or older and does not appear on the For You feed. Okay, that's a little blurb I got from today.com. They did an article about SkinnyTok and kind of like, why hasn't it been taken down? And basically that's the answer, right? Is that TikTok has its ass covered, right? It has the disclaimer message. It says that its community guidelines are, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that. But if something is like in the gray area, if something's a little murky, if they can't really like decipher what it is, they'll basically just flag it as 18 plus. They won't throw it on the FYP, and they'll just let you find it or let you search for it or however you stumble upon it. Another interesting facet of all of this is that there are very clear leaders within the SkinnyTok space, right? And someone that I didn't know about until this year actually is a big leader of it. Her name is Liv Schmidt. And if you don't know who she is, she calls herself a skinfluencer. Not skin as in like skin that gets sunburnt, skin as in skinny. And she actually has been banned from TikTok many, many times over the last year because of her very inappropriate use of the platform in regards to SkinnyTok. So let's get into who Liv Schmidt is and what she's doing nowadays. So last year, the Wall Street Journal decided to do an article profiling her and basically what she does online, which is basically instructions to be thin, right? That's her whole platform, her TikTok, her Instagram, everything she talks about are just instructions and advice on being thin. Now, when the Wall Street Journal published this profile, it got a lot of heat. It got a lot of attention. And so TikTok subsequently disables her account. TikTok disables her account, doesn't provide a comment to the Wall Street Journal, but instead just says she violated community guidelines. Okay. They don't provide any other comment outside of that. famously in her bio, it always had the phrase, "It's not a sin to want to be thin," which is like a cute and quirky, I guess, like rhyming phrase for people who have an eating disorder. But like, it's not a sin to want to be thin because, yeah, we live in this bullshit patriarchal society that tells us that we need to be thin. So I don't think it's a sin to like succumb to societal pressure. But I do think it is a sin to have a huge platform and to be telling young, impressionable, insecure women that they should be skinny and thin or else they're not going to have a fulfilled life. So might want to double check that one, Liv. She claims that she's only promoting being healthy and does not have an eating disorder. She also claimed in the Wall Street Journal profile that she was treated better by society when she became thin, which is honestly one of the most infuriating parts about this whole thing, right? Is that how can this woman admit that she was treated better by society when she was thin, and instead of get mad at society and recognize that that's fucked up, just go the complete other way and say, oh, well, now I have to be thin. I have no other choice. I think that's something that happens a lot to people who are online or who have a platform who get treated differently depending on their size, is they tend to like act like they're body positive, but they're really not. Like, it's like this whole Remy Bader thing. You know what I mean? Like, I know we already did an episode on it, but it's like, oh, so you want to be body positive until you have the money to be thin, and then you're going to be thin, and then you're going to act like, oh, I did it because like I feel better. People treat me better. Like, why don't we just recognize that society is fucked up and that we shouldn't be treating people based on their weight and not going around telling people to be thin? What about that? What about that? She also has, in case you're interested, now she's gotten disabled many times. She keeps popping up like a whack-a-mole all over the internet. But now for the low price of just $9.99, you too can listen to Liv Schmidt spew dumb shit into a group chat called the Skinny Girl Community Group Chat. So if you want to waste that $10 a month on a thin white woman telling you to hate yourself, this sounds like the perfect opportunity for you. But outside of Liv Schmidt, there's really like no other chatter about like people getting banned, things getting banned. This is just like a part of it, right? Is like these influencers doing all of this crazy fucked up shit, getting banned, and then just like popping up in another way or popping up on another platform, and then their loyal followers follow them. That's really all it is, right? So like I said, TikTok can only control so much content. There's going to be a ton of diet culture content that slips through the cracks because it is very murky, right? It's like sometimes even my videos that are considered like eating disorder recovery videos get flagged for promoting eating disorders. And it's because there's not enough real people monitoring these community guideline violations to understand like what's actually happening. It's just AI being like, oh, we hear or see the word eating disorder, we're going to flag this. So now let's like flip the script a little bit. Let's say that you're someone that's like, I've looked at SkinnyTok, I've seen the things, or I've listened to Liv Schmidt, and like, honestly, I think they make some good points. Let's dive into what that really means, right? So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know, some of this seems pretty fine. Like, what if I do just want to be thin? What if I do just want to like eat less and be skinny and that's what I want? Let me give you some food for thought, okay? Dr. Asim Chima, an internal medicine specialist at Your Doctors Online, told Forbes that the practices discussed on SkinnyTok could lead to medical problems. Those, he said, include electrolyte imbalances, hormonal disruptions, nutritional deficiencies, development or worsening of disordered eating patterns, psychological distress, and cardiac issues. Okay, that's directly from Vice.com. I am living proof that if you engage in eating disorder behaviors for a prolonged amount of time, you are going to fuck up your body, okay? There were many times throughout my eating disorder where I lost my period. My skin was very dehydrated no matter how much water I drank. My hair would fall out. I would feel very lethargic. My skin would look pale and sunken in. Depending on the types of behaviors you're engaging in, you're going to be fucking up your metabolism, your digestion issues, the way that your body absorbs sugar, the way your body absorbs protein. Like, you're messing with these very intricate, complex, delicate systems that were created for you, by you, literally. Like, your body is like there to help you survive. And so if you're going to abuse it by not feeding it enough, by not giving it enough rest, by not giving it what it wants, then you're basically saying to your body, like, I don't care enough about living to take care of myself. Because if you only care about living if you're thin, then you're going to live a very shitty, unfulfilling existence. You can't hate yourself into loving yourself. Believe me, I have tried, okay? I tried for 15 years, and not once in those 15 years did I ever feel like I got to a genuine place of, wow, I actually love myself. And now that I'm in eating disorder recovery, I'm not at a place of full, I love myself, but I do love who I'm becoming. And I do love the version of Morgan that I am growing into because of the struggles I've had and because of the obstacles that I am choosing to fight every day through recovery. And that piece, I think, is what's the most sad about SkinnyTok, is that it is so based in shame and it is so based in tough love that these women are convincing each other that the only way to feel good about yourself is to basically bad cop your consciousness and trick it into thinking you're actually this fat fuck and you're only going to be happy when you're thin. That's so sad to me. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Also, this is something that comes a lot from, in my opinion, educating yourself on like diet culture and what it means and how the health industry has become a $1 trillion industry. Temporary weight loss can certainly contribute to feelings of confidence, right? Especially when you're getting positive reinforcement from other people. But let me ask you this. What happens when you go off the diet? What happens when you start eating normally again, right? So let's say you go on this like juice cleanse, you're only eating so many calories a day, you're forcing yourself to run however long every single day. What happens when you inevitably go back to what you were doing before? Do you think your body's just naturally gonna like stay the way it was? Do you think that you're not gonna like gain weight back? There are several studies that show that short-term dieting actually leads to more weight gain in the end. And the reason for that is because when you go on a short-term diet and you go on a fad diet and you go on something that is highly restrictive, you are communicating to your body that you are going through a famine. You are going through a period where you do not have access to food, right? And so your body's thinking, okay, shit, I'm going to kick in some of our biological systems to keep us alive and to keep us afloat because that's what I'm built for. And if we don't have food to sustain us right now, I'm going to have to sustain myself for however long this famine lasts, right? Except you can't keep the famine going your whole life. Like, that's what's going to end up causing the irreversible damage to your liver and your kidneys and your colon. And like the reason why people have issues once they recover from eating disorders is because they spent so long gaslighting their bodies into thinking something was wrong when nothing was actually wrong. You just weren't feeding yourself, right? Sorry, I went on a little bit of a tangent there. But how are you going to give yourself tough love when your body inevitably changes, right? Let's say you like go through menopause, you go through puberty, you go through a transition, you have a huge life change, you have a huge stress, you have a life-altering event happen, you get injured, someone you love passes away. Like, how are you going to tough love yourself into a thin body when your body is reacting to life? That's something to think about, okay? Another big point that I would like to make is that nutritionists and dietitians alike do not recommend the things that are being recommended on SkinnyTok, okay? So like my nutritionist, a woman who is a registered dietitian, a woman who works with eating disorder recovery patients, specifically a woman who has been certified in intuitive eating and health at every size and has done all of the background knowledge, okay? She's not going to look at someone and say, yeah, you should only eat 1,200 calories. That's not advisable. That's not possible. That's not good for you, okay? That's the calories needed for a toddler, All right. Think about how small a toddler is. Small boy. Okay. 1,200 calories is not enough to sustain you as an adult human being. Okay. And it's not because, toddlers are running around and they need to grow and I'm just sitting at a desk all day and I don't need that many calories. No. You have a fully formed adult human body that is functioning all on its own. Because even when you're sitting down, what is your heart doing? It's beating. What is your brain doing? Is functioning. What is your metabolism doing? It's moving. What are your muscles doing? Resting and relaxing, rebuilding themselves. Like, your body is constantly doing stuff for you. So why would you not give back to it by fueling it adequately, right? There's a huge lack of information also on SkinnyTok. I mean, obviously, like, these people are not doctors. They're not dietitians. They're not nutritionists. They're just like young women who have like found a hack and they're like, ooh, guess what my hack is? I'm going to smoke a cigarette instead of eating dinner. Like, and so there's a huge gap in information and honestly education on like the way the human body functions. And I think that's really fucking dangerous because these people, like, they don't care about your health. You know what I mean? Like, if I went on SkinnyTok and I showed my body and I was like, what do you guys think? They wouldn't give a fuck that I was healthier than I've ever been, right? They wouldn't give a fuck that I'm finally at a stable weight. They wouldn't give a fuck that my meds are working. They wouldn't give a fuck that I'm hydrated. They wouldn't give a fuck that I'm a year and a half into eating disorder recovery. They would just be like, I don't know, you look fat. Right? Like, because that's the whole mentality. So health isn't a concern for people on SkinnyTok. It's not even a concern at all. It's literally just like something on the back burner that's like, oh, well, yeah, like I'm going to be healthy because I'm eating less. But that's not the reality. That's not the reality. It's a slippery slope. While some SkinnyTok users claim the trend has helped them become more aware of what they put in their body, which isn't a bad thing, the underlying bias encourages negative feelings that can ultimately spiral out of control, leaving someone who originally had somewhat good intentions now reaching for an unrealistic goal. I wrote that down because I knew I wasn't going to remember how to say it, how to eloquently say it. A good example of this is my own personal experience with when I first kind of like dove into my eating disorder, I guess you could say. Like, I found my mom's diet book and it was just a book that was like, eat this, not that. And it was like, don't eat a banana. It has this many grams of sugar. You should eat this instead because it has this many grams of sugar. And the first intention of it for me was just like, oh, I just didn't really know that. Maybe I should stop eating bananas, or I had never really had a lot of nutrition education besides just my mom putting food in front of me and telling me to eat it. So when I read this book, I thought, oh, wow, I'm learning so much. Oh my God, I didn't know that. I should take this as gospel. But then it slowly turned into this slippery slope of like, oh, but what about other food? What about other nutrition labels I should be looking at? What about chemicals? And it started me down a rabbit hole where every day, every week, I was cutting more and more out of my diet, convincing myself that it was not good for me to have anything, basically, for me to eat. I mean, I was eating a quarter of an apple for breakfast because I was like, that's enough sugar. That's crazy, okay? And that's the slippery slope that people on SkinnyTok are going down. Is it's like you start out with just, I'm just going to try to eat more fruit. I'm just going to try to eat more fiber. And then you start looking at, well, how much sugar is in fruit and how much sugar am I supposed to have and how much fiber am I going to have? And well, okay, well now I'm counting this, but that looks like too many carbs. Oh, but I have a birthday party this weekend. I really want to eat cake. Well, no, I want to be skinny more than when I want cake. Like it's a addictive cycle, and I just don't think we should be going down it. 9% of the population, which to me seems low, but 9% of the population suffers from an eating disorder, which often results in a lifelong recovery process coupled with lasting physical damage. 9% I think is the number because that's probably how many people have reported that they have an eating disorder or who have been officially diagnosed as having an eating disorder. There are way more people, in my opinion, that experience disordered eating because that's so common. I think being diagnosed with an eating disorder is always a much bigger step, a much bigger leap into an actual mental disease, that of which I have. But it is a lifelong recovery process. Like, I'm going to be in recovery for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Like, I might be young now and maybe in 10 years, it'll feel like I'm not in recovery anymore. But there will always be the option for me to slip back into my eating disorder. Like, when I'm going through a hard time, when I'm dealing with a lot of, drama in my life, or I'm dealing with maybe some family shit going on, or I feel down on myself, like, I'm always going to have the option to go back to my eating disorder, and recovery is actively choosing not to and using healthy coping mechanisms to get past those feelings. And that's been really hard. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. This is the hardest shit I've ever done in my life. Okay. Like, not using food to soothe myself or not using restriction to soothe myself is really fucking difficult. And I've been actually struggling a lot recently because I've gone through a lot of life changes recently. And it's not something that's like just casual, you know what I mean? Like, developing an eating disorder is really fucking serious. It's really bad for your health. Having an eating disorder is way worse for your health than being fat ever could be. And 0 out of 10 would recommend. So what can we do about SkinnyTok? What can you do about SkinnyTok, right? If you're like me and you're someone that is probably online a lot, unfortunately, it's just part of my career, part of my life now. You can curate your own feed, right? You can curate who you want to see, what you don't want to see. I spend a lot of time pressing not interested on videos. I be reporting all that shit. I be reporting SkinnyTok videos every time one comes across my FYP. I'm like, nah, report eating disorder every single time. But if there's just something that I'm like not interested in and I know it's going to keep triggering me, I click not interested. I've blocked a lot of like wellness influencers. I have all the Kardashians blocked. Like, I just am not interested in seeing any of that shit on my feed, on my timeline, on anything. And I think that's a really good tool that we can use on social media now, is that you can mute people, you can block people, you can click not interested, teach the algorithm what you want to see, and curate a feed that's going to feel positive for you. If you're ever looking for people to follow, I have a quick little list right here. These are some accounts that I follow that have to do with like anti-diet, fat bias type of discussions. So one of them is called Fork Diet Culture. It's Abby Roberts. She's a non-diet dietitian and she's very funny. Very, very funny. I am hoping to have her on the pod soon. Another one is at The Nutrition Tea, who is Shanna Monet Spence. She's also a non-diet dietitian. Post some like funny ass shit, like post some like funny threads, always has something very intelligent to say. I love her takes on like modern like political shit too. It's very funny. Another one is What the Actual Fork Pod with Jenna Werner and Sam Pravit. They're both dietitians. It's a podcast. They also have an Instagram page where they post clips. It's a podcast very similar to mine, right? Except they obviously have a way like larger audience and shit. But they talk about like all kinds of shit. I mean, they just did a whole episode on Remy Bader, like they like talk about all of the same kind of stuff, and like I love their takes on everything. Another one is Hey Sharon Maxwell. Sharon Maxwell is an educator and weight inclusive consultant speaker. And then there's Alliance for ED, which is the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. There's also, of course, the Eating Disorder Foundation here in Denver. Any of those types of accounts I think are fun to follow because it just kind of like weaves some education through your feed, but also because a lot of them have like a sense of humor, right? So they're gonna like make fun of bullshit. Like they're gonna call out dumb shit when it comes in the media. And I also just think it's nice to like follow people who are also in the industry. So curate your feed. That's my biggest piece of advice. The next one is educate yourself. You'd be surprised how much indoctrination has happened since the time we were born about diet culture and how much of it can truly be debunked in like one book. A book that I mention all the time that I'm always telling people to read is Intuitive Eating. I mean, I have 2 copies right here next to me on my bookshelf. Like, it's one of the most like mind-boggling books you could ever read. It's by Evelyn Triboli and Elise Reich. They're both registered dietitians. They wrote the book out of concern for their patients because they both were dietitians who were like giving diet advice, giving like meal plans, and then realizing like, oh, this is actually like not helping at all. This is like not what we need to do. And so intuitive eating has like 10 principles. I did a whole episode on it where, it goes through like, this is what it means to be an intuitive eater. Why aren't we intuitive eaters now? What happened? This is what the binge restrict cycle looks like, or this is what the diet restrict cycle, whatever it is, right? The weight cycling cycle. And it basically backs itself up with a bunch of science and a lot of studies that talk about why diets are bullshit, why the healthcare industry is bullshit, and how you could actually take care of yourself in a much better way. And then there's like Maintenance Phase is a really great podcast with Aubrey Gordon and Michael Hobbs. That one's a very educational heavy podcast, but they're very funny because they're both like lifestyle writers. There's Health at Every Size by Lindo Bacon, which is a great book. And then there's, I have a book list on my Amazon that has a bunch of books written by influencers, comedians, educators, dietitians, people who are in the space and have dealt with the same thing. So I will link it in the show notes so you guys can check it out. But educating yourself I think is a really big deal, because the more knowledge that you have about the diet industry, the less likely it is to influence you and make you feel bad about yourself. Now let's say, you loosely follow diet culture advice. Let's say you're one of those people that's like, I've never really had an eating disorder. It's never been that serious. Like maybe you're still one of those people that's like, oh, I could lose a few pounds, but you're not really sure like how you feel about yourself or how you feel about diet culture, but sometimes you'll go on a diet. Here's some food for thought for you, okay? What amount of time of your life, like what fraction of your life would you be willing to sacrifice in order to keep being concerned about being thin or changing your body? Think about that for a second. Like how many years would you be willing to shave off your life to continue to be thin or be obsessive over your weight or obsess over your food and exercise? Because that's what's really happening, right? Is like, when you obsess over food, when you obsess over dieting, when you think about how you need to lose weight, you are trading time for self-hatred, right? Like you are trading pieces of your life so that you can feel bad, because somehow us feeling bad about ourselves is noble and good and makes you a better human. Right? That doesn't make sense. So like the next time that you're like standing in the mirror and you're like maybe grabbing your stomach, or you're pinching your skin, or maybe you're putting on jeans that didn't fit the same way last year and you're starting to spiral down, think to yourself, how much time of my life am I willing to trade to do this? How much time of my life? Because if you really put it on paper, it would be terrifying, right? If I put on paper how many consecutive days, weeks, months, years I have spent crying in the mirror, staring at a scale, calculating calories, looking at the numbers on a treadmill, forcing myself to exercise when I couldn't, injuring myself, going to the doctor and acting like I didn't have an eating disorder. Like so many years were spent doing those things that I can't get back now. And I would love to have those years back so that I could continue growing as a person. Just some food for thought, right? Will you be happy with the decision to pursue thinness on your deathbed? Will you be happy when you're about to die, when you're realizing you're coming to the end of your life? Will you be happy knowing that you spent X amount of years thinking about cookies you couldn't eat? You know what I mean? Like, do you think you'll get to this magical point in life where you'll be like, oh my God, I did it. I'm thin. I'm happy. I'm perfect now. I don't have to put any more effort into this. Probably not. So that's my short and sweet take on SkinnyTok. It is a very triggering space. So if you're like someone who's listening to this and you're like, oh, I'm kind of curious, now I want to go look, proceed with caution. Just know that there's a lot of talks about eating disorder behaviors on there. There's a lot of discussions about weight and food and numbers and very, very specific details. So just protect your head, protect your heart. And if you know anyone who is struggling, you can always reach out to the, Eating Disorder Foundation helpline, which I have in my bio. You can reach out to me, ask for advice on how to talk to them, reach out to your friends, and also just like talk to people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being concerned for someone. Approach it with love, approach it with light, approach it with happiness in your heart. And let's end today with a little affirmation, shall we? My worth does not depend on my weight, appearance, or aesthetics. Boom, daddy. See you next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to My Body, My Jokes. Please be advised that the information provided in this podcast is for general discussion purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. Always, always, always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare professional with any concerns you might have regarding the topics discussed in today's episode. Also, if you or someone you know is struggling with an eating disorder, please call the National Eating Disorders Association helpline at 1-800-931-2237. Bye.